as human beings, we are storytellers.
Yeah.
And I remember reading something, or I think we were talking about it earlier. We don't remember the stories that were all nice and happy. You know, you look at Grimm's fairy tales; none of them are particularly joyful. Um, as human beings, we are designed to survive, and that means telling each other the stories of when something's gone wrong. Nobody remembers the time that we all went out with Grandad and had a nice picnic, and he ate some berries and everything was fine. You remember the story when Grandad went and we all went and had a picnic and Grandad ate some white berries and was very, very poorly, and that's why we don't eat white berries anymore. Do you know? Like, it's those that's how we survive. And this idea of, you know, we've been trying this with the working at height regs for 20 plus years, haven't we? And yeah, it's sitting and going, well, Regulation 4 says blah, 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 and this says that, and like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So yeah, so let's do something different. Let's actually use those things that as human beings stick with us and resonate with us, and use it to harness what we need people to do.
I think the next part of that is about the storytelling. But one thing you mentioned just earlier on, I just want to go back to was the work that you've been doing with the universities around some of the research, and the insight driven and about how that operates. And it would just be good just to try and understand in a little bit more detail, if we could, just about what does that actually look like? 'Cause I think when I started to hear the work that you were undertaking, I thought, wow, that's just we need to elevate that message that talks about how you are educating, preventing, and making people take a step back because we want more people to sign up to No Falls Week. We want more people involved with the foundation because, like I said, more advocates means more people passing that message and making sure that we're all working as safe as possible. But more importantly, people are going home safe as the loved ones are out there. So can you just give a bit of insight into some of the research that's being undertaken?
I absolutely can, and I have had to refer to my
No,
notes
really,
because it's
that's
one
fine.
it's
They
one
said,
of those that I've just had to go research. Yes. So, we are currently conducting a research study around behavioral insights to preventing falls. Um, and the idea is that we wanna map the context in which so that the interventions that we're having are the most, give us the most impact. Um, reviewing existing data, analyzing the key guidance and documentation that's out already, and also engaging with industry stakeholders, which is where your listeners can and viewers can absolutely come in and help out. Individuals who have survived falls, in order to be able to contribute to really great, important guidance around working at height. Um, we want to be able to identify the behaviors that lead to fall-related deaths
yeah,
and injuries across all of the industry sectors, and the idea is that that will then lead to priority sectors and behaviors where we can have those interventions, um, and also looking at kind of the readiness for change as well,
yeah.
which I think is one of the conversations that we've been having quite a bit today as
It
well.
is, yeah. I just think that's so much insight there that you can take and you can then put into some real actions, activities, measure it. But like I say, it's not coming from. I think we should be doing this. It's actually with using some grounded information from people, like I said, that have lived and breathed it as well, and have come back and tell you how they've kind of circumnavigated whatever they did to have their incident or accident. And like I say, there's other things then about some of the data, what's that telling us? So I think that's going to have such a massive impact. And how will that resonate out then? Will that be through conferences and
It'll
through?
be through conferences, through papers. Will change the advice and guidance that is on our website,
Yeah.
and will there's an awful lot of the advocates that are always more than willing to come out and speak, whether they're about their lived experience, and then also the other things that you can do to shift and nudge the dial to make sure people are coming home safe. Um, I think safety is a team sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's it's not, we should be learning from each other, and we should be able to turn around and go, "Yeah, do you know what? We this is what we experienced.
Yeah.
this is what we learned from that incident. This is what we've done differently. And we will share that with everybody because I don't want you to have to go through the same thing in order to learn the same lessons.
Um, um, Based on your vast experience, when you've seen safety culture working really well, what elements do you say? Obviously, so you mentioned there teamwork. There's a culture that's driven from the top. I'm guessing that everyone has a voice and be able to challenge and be listened to and heard. Or that about they're not inspections, the safety conversations, right? Because using the word inspection, and people think clipboard, don't they? Rather than just what's happening through your lens. Tell me how we put you to work. Were the gaps in those areas? Do you feel like you can challenge? What are the elements that you see? Is it all
I
what
mean,
you
it's
mentioned there?
all of those, and then trust.
Massive, yeah.
Trust is huge. If you don't trust your people to get on with their job, why are they doing the job? Um, trust that they know how. Trust that you can give them the tools to be able to do their job safely, and that they can trust you. That if they say they don't feel safe or they feel that something's not right, that will also be listened to. Um, you know, I've never massively been one for hugely hierarchical organizations. I don't think it works. Um, we're all driving we're all driving in the same direction. And it's me trusting that the person beside me um, is not just responsible for them, but is responsible for me too, in the same way that I'm responsible for me and I'm responsible for them and the person on my right. And that And yeah, and health and safety is a tool to be able to get us to the place that we want to be. It's not a hindrance. It's not, oh, we've got to do this because the law tells us we have to, or we don't want to get in trouble. It's we do this because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And it goes back to the understanding what your critical risks are and the control measures you got in place. 'Cause, yeah, I can have a piece of paper and a risk assessment that tells, but a piece of paper is not going to keep you safe, is it? It's about the attitude, the behaviours, and it's about people really understanding everything that I'm doing in way of that process. That goes back to your example, like clipping on, clipping off. I've done that in the same way, repetition, but I make sure that I'm concentrating in those areas. Is the equipment inspected? In the right way? Have you? Because they are things that could potentially fail if a fall does occur, and it's getting people to go, that's the mindset that you need when it comes to prevention.
The other thing is I, and it's quite controversial. Some people look at me weirdly.
Yeah.
I don't write risk assessments.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I've written a risk assessment in over a decade
Yeah.
as a health and safety bod.
Yeah.
I don't write them. I'm not the expert in that job.
Yeah.
You write them. I'll write them with you. I'll give you the framework and the tools to be able to do that risk assessment. But what are the things that make you worried about not going home? And actually, rather than going, I know we nerded out earlier and talked about 5 by 5s and all of that. But fundamentally, if you go, what are the things in your job that mean that you might not go home? So flipping that conversation, getting people bought into what you know, is a paperwork exercise. We do live in a world where if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. It's very, very difficult to prove things that we don't have physical evidence for it. But using risk assessment as a tool to have those conversations with people is really important.
I really can't think about where you do involve people. 'Cause I've got something stuck in my mind about when the lampposts that are collapsible rather than working at high. That came from I think from a conversation that says, actually, if we want to eliminate the risk, why don't we
Why don't we do that?
do that? And but that just shows the power of involving people, and there's a prime example of prevention, isn't it? And that's really at that first level of the hierarchy of safety.
Or even, you know, window cleaners. No, you're right. I don't want to go up and down ladders 15, 20, 300 times a day. I'd much rather do it from the floor. And, you've got those telescopic poles now. Like, eliminate stuff.
Yeah.
And especially when, we health and safety people are lots of things to lots of different people.
Yeah.
Talk to the experts in that job.
It's amazing now as you actually go around and you see in some of the estates where you have got the people with the wash and reach, but you've still got the old school window cleaner, and you're like thinking to yourself, it just demonstrates what we've been talking about throughout the podcast, that individual probably thinks that's cost, that's going to cost me time to set up. I can whistle through all these houses, up and down a ladder. But every time I'm doing that, there's a level of risk of doing it where someone at the side of me that's got the wash and reach is just probably looking at me going, what are you doing? But that just shows some of the context in where we need to work on it, isn't it? So from a prevention point of view, when you think about kind of near misses and hazard reporting, it's getting people into that mindset as well, isn't it? From a culture point of view and looking out. And I think you mentioned before about you pulling people up, working on your property. There is it goes back to that communication element again, though, isn't it? They say, "How comfortable do you feel?" And sometimes as we're British, and I think sometimes we don't like treading on people's toes, do we? It's like, "Look, how do I put this across?" But getting people also when they're out doing the job is to give more insight. And do you believe in kind of the hazard spotting and making sure that people are really tuned in to that hazard perception?
Absolutely. Do I believe in quotas for them? No. Um, do I think that, near misses, those kind of, "Oh, I'm not gonna tell my mum about that one,"
Yeah.
moments is the polite way of saying it.
Mhm.
Um, those bits, those are like, near misses and hazard spotting are so essential because we can learn so much from them
Yeah.
and nobody's been hurt. Like, they are gold
Yeah.
for us as an industry and as a profession, and I think the more we have the more we get comfortable with talking about those moments where, "Oh, I had a slip there. Oh, that didn't go quite right," um, is really, really important. But then also, I'm gonna flip it and not just look at near misses and hazards, but those jobs that go really well, like we used to call them positive
Yeah,
investigations.
I was gonna ask you that question about saying looking at things, but then going that proactive investigation before things happen, go, how do we improve the process that we've currently got? Because that's great, but let's celebrate that. But can we actually move the dial further?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did we do in this one? Well, actually, we had a team that all know each other and are all comfortable with each other. I'm really it didn't the apprentice knew that he could turn round to the supervisor and go, "Oh, your steelies aren't on, your harness isn't tightened." When you've got people that want to actively look out for each other rather than just themselves, um, that's where the magic happens, and that goes back to values and behaviors and how we instill that in people. Um, that it's about looking out for each other because sometimes we don't necessarily, we're not necessarily paying attention. It's that very British thing of we
Yes.
don't necessarily look after ourselves very well. But I'm comfortable looking after you, so you look after me, I'll look after you, right? Yeah. And I think that's really important. And a lot of the key of that is supervisors and line managers
Yeah.
who become curious and are interested in learning from things that nearly went wrong
Yeah.
or went wrong but nothing happened, nobody got hurt. Um, and those things, and it goes, yeah,
I think you mentioned as well, it's about the empowerment. So you empower people then to do risk assessment support. So there's a level of empowerment. There's a level of empowerment, then there's that supervisor say, actually, I'm going to stop the job because it's not safe. And that again, that's about the cultural aspect. They're going, I know that I can push that back into the office and I'm fully supported rather than go just get the job done. But what we said right at the start though, probably the self-employed sometimes that is they are looking and going, I need to earn some money today, so actually I'm just going to crack on. Yeah, I've turned up. I've been given some of this equipment, but either the equipment's wrong
yeah,
or the set of circumstances that I'm now working in have changed and this is no longer fit for purpose. But I'll crack on. Or actually, the scope of work changes where they go, well, just do this while you're here as well. And I suppose that's where the incidents occur because I've got the control measures for that first job, but then someone just drops something on me and goes, just do that.
yeah.
And that's something we need to watch out for.
It is, but then it's also you empower your people by giving them the tools to be able to dynamically risk assess as well.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you make those decisions on the fly? Because not everything is going to be
Yeah,
perfect
yeah.
all of the time. So how do you make decisions on the fly? Um how do you kind of veer off course whilst also knowing
Yeah.
what and that's why I talk about frameworks rather than, you will do this and you will not do this, and really prescriptive kind of SOPs and stuff. They are you create frameworks because you trust the people that you work with to be able to make safe decisions for themselves. And then, but then you're right, it goes back to that. But if I know that my daughter needs new ballet shoes or needs a new drum kit because, she's just done her grade 6, like, and all of, if that pressure is on there, or, oh, we put a deposit down on a holiday and all that second bill's coming up and it's been quiet this
Get me
week
in front
and
of it, and then
just
suddenly
gotta
I
get,
do the action
yeah,
activity, and that's the one that
yeah,
fortunately
yeah.
causes the incident.
And it is such a difficult piece to figure out how we target
Yeah.
though, like those people.
Uh-huh.
Not that sounded really like that, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those small and medium enterprises, those tiny enterprises, those solo traders, how you engage with them in a way that makes sense to them is such a key for so much of this.
Yeah. I suppose that links us on quite nice. We said at the back end of this podcast, we'd look at some of the ambassadors that you've got working within the, and the personal stories that come out there. And can you just give us some examples of some of the people and the stories that come out there? Because I think that is and we've left it to the back end because I think that is the absolute golden nugget when people go, oh my God, they are things which you can now bring to the table to educate people where you're driving an emotional response, which means that locks it into the brain because it's like, wow, that's powerful stuff. And listening to your story previously, seeing you, it's still there with you. It never goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It really doesn't. So the easiest thing for me to say is if you're interested in having one of our ambassadors come and talk at one of your sites, please go and check out our website. Please come and contact us, and we'll get you in touch with one of them, or a couple of them. There are loads. There are loads. There really are. I think Jason Anchors is probably the most.
I've seen Jason.
Yeah, very, very powerful conversation. And his recognition that, his accountability. What's interesting is having heard him speak a number of years ago versus more recently, is how that talk has changed as he has come more to terms with the responsibility and accountability that he has within that incident as well.
Because I think probably some of the anger has dropped to that point in time, and he's going to kind of self-cope in ways, and this is now his life, and he's accepted that. But then it's about, well, have I got here? And the power of reflection is
Yeah.
is massive. But then you want people to think about that, to reflect in the dynamic risk assessment, don't you? To go, whoa, let me just put the brakes on before that job starts. I've now come across something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And we don't just have Jason's perspective, we have his daughter's perspective as well now. So she talks really eloquently. I think she was 3 when Jason had his incident, and so she has never not known dad in a wheelchair. But she talks about the incident, and not the incident itself, but the recovery and the relationship with her father that had completely shifted because of that injury. And if you brush off, I don't think you ever can, but if you brush off Jason's story of going, "Well, that'll never happen to me," listening to the effect and the impact that had, that 30-second mistake made for the ramifications that had with his relationship with his daughter, um, the things that he could not do for her and with her because because of the injury. Um, I think I alluded to another one earlier, where we had a guy. We have a guy who worked on chimneys and on roofs, and he was exceptional. He was put in a position where he was exceptionally uncomfortable. Did not feel that he could say no. Um, I mean, the story's horrific, and it absolutely incenses me. It gets so angry about it. Um, his boss fabricated a document from the HSE to say that they were exempt from wearing harnesses, and he fell off a roof, onto a kind of a dividing wall between two properties in front of a bus stop where kids were waiting to, go to school. Ah, um, and the bit that the bit that got me got me in that was his first thought was how traumatized those kids would have been. And, and he broke he shattered his pelvis, and in fact, there's a poster, um, of his legs with a shadow in front of him, and it's literally says, "Falls from height, cast a long shadow." And it's phenomenal. And there's people who there's family members who have lost somebody to a fall from height. There are survivors, who it may not even have been as bad as kind of those two examples. I'm actually I'm talking to um I'm talking to one of the guys I know who had he had a telescopic ladder snap underneath him, and he fell 6 foot. It was the day after Christmas, day after Boxing Day, um, and yeah, that was the third fall from height that I'd kind of had to deal with, and he broke his back in 6 places, and that must be say coming up probably about 6, maybe 5, 6 years ago. It was definitely I don't know, COVID fumbled everybody's timelines up. Um, and it was definitely before COVID. And his memory of the incident is very different to my memory of the incident. And he does not remember me seeing him in hospital. And I there are bad days where I can still I still replay going through the hospital, walking through the hospital ward, and I asked for him and then went, "Oh, no, it's okay," because I could hear him screaming from the other side of the ward. Um, and he was very fortunate. He walked back into work kind of 6, 7 months later. Um, but I was also, we were in a position, and I was absolutely adamant that our decision around the ladders that we were recommend the ladders I was recommending had resulted in what should have been an EN 131 rated ladder, which I spent a small fortune getting, a postmortem essentially on the ladder. Turns out wasn't it wasn't, it was a knockoff, that we'd bought from a reputable supplier, and, it all unravelled quite horrifically. Um, but he still finds it very, very difficult to talk about it. Um, and yeah, it's the reason why it doesn't have to be a big fall. It was, that was not even probably barely 6 foot.
They even say
Um,
some 2 meters above into people that
to
are just
me,
a
yeah,
velocity, and like people die from 2 meters, and people forget about that. They think it's all the big working at height
and
things
it's
you like,
not.
and it's not.
It can be tiny.
Perception again, isn't it?
Yeah, and you look at. I know we're talking about No Falls. You look at the work that ROSPA does, which is around kind of DIY and stuff like that. The amount of people who like seriously hurt or injure themselves through falls from height doing home repairs and stuff like that is mad.
It's amazing how many people probably work safely during the week, but then get to the week and they do what exactly. But it goes back to then go danger must be sleeping on a weekend. But it is people. You hear the stories and they'll turn around and go, "Oh yeah, within work, I'll do all those things, but it's just suddenly I'll do that job
Yeah,
now."
I'll lean over I'll overstretch on that ladder. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that we need to change. So just kind of drawing the podcast to a close, Don. I appreciate your honesty there, from an emotional side of point of view in the stories that you've shared there, and hopefully that resonates with our listeners and watchers. They'll hear that in your voice and see that in your body language when you've been talking about it, that you've witnessed a lot within your career. And what we're trying to do, and the foundation is trying to do, is do a real education piece. So Falls Week and getting behind it, because this is now drumming up the drum beat for people to go, do you know something? I'm listening to this podcast, I'm watching it, and it's now making me really think about where do our priorities lies, and are we doing everything possible? And that's all we ever want from these podcasts, is people to reflect and go, I'm taking, even if you take one element from one of these podcasts, then it's done its job. So yeah, just trying to think about how people can get involved.
It's it's very simple. You go to nofallsfoundation.org and look for the No Falls Week information. There will be a huge amount of toolkits, resources from No Falls and from the Access Industry Forum to help organizations plan activities for No Falls Week. Sign up to join us. No Falls Week this year is the 18th to the 22nd of May.
Put on date.
Um, and uh, and yeah, follow us on LinkedIn. Um, invite one of our advocates to come and speak. Even if it's not that week, if it's a couple of weeks later. But yeah, if you if you if you have people working at height, yeah, let let's talk.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Lovely. And what would you say your golden nuggets are then, just about everything that we've discussed here when we talk about in summary? Because when we do these podcasts, I always like to get people just to go, what are the three things you want people to take away? Because obviously it is preventable, isn't it? And there's a mindset. So what would you say? Just look, just think about these things.
Oh, that's a really good one. I think the priority is obviously come and sign up and become involved with the No Falls Foundation. The second one is absolutely that power of storytelling. Storytelling is something that we can use and harness in order to really make a positive change within our workforces. And thirdly, look at look at how you can shift culture. Culture is the key to so much of this because shifting your culture shifts people's behavior. And if you shift to a trust culture, um, then yeah, then people will come and speak to you, and that's really important.
Powerful, powerful. They all say the power of three. I think they are real powerful messages there. So, Ken, I'd really like to thank you for your time. It's been really insightful, and like just to see the passion, the emotion that comes forward. You can tell, obviously, that this you live and breathe this type of stuff. And I appreciate you taking time to come on to Ground in Safety to share that with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much.